Good morning, good afternoon, good evening YouTubers, wherever you are watching from. So, I've had the Multistrada for 12 months now, a little bit more perhaps. So I'm just going to talk you through my experiences. I'm going to talk you through what was my motivation for buying this bike. I'm going to talk you through the research I did and the other bikes I compared it with. I'm going to talk you through the upgrades and customisations that I've made to it already. Then where you want to be listening really is the good. I'm going to talk you through the bits that are not so good, and I'm going to conclude at the end by talking you through whether it's been a good purchase or not. Do I have any regrets in buying it? And the fundamental question at the end, was it worth the upgrade? My previous bike was KTM 1190 Adventure, and I bought it brand new 2014, serviced it myself for 10 years. It's been a tremendous bike, seen me through 22,000 miles. And after a tour to Spain, I just decided that I wanted something new. I wanted something different. I wanted a bit of a change. So, nothing wrong with the bike at all. It was just a case of, it was as good a time as any to go and try other bikes out and go and do something different. So, obviously, I did my research. So, I looked at Triumph Explorer. I immediately dismissed this one for a simple reason. I've already had one. I owned one for 2 years, a 2011 model, I think. Owned it for 2 years, really quite enjoyed the bike. It was comfy like a sofa, but it was also a little bit spongy, and I had a couple of near misses on it which kind of dented my confidence in the bike. So that was Triumph Explorer, off the radar. Been there, done it, got the t-shirt. So next, BMW 1300 GS to be precise, or the GS Adventure. Well, GS looks a bit more like a regular road bike in my opinion, and the Adventure, honestly, it's a looks thing. It doesn't do it for me. I know I didn't particularly like the Boxer way back when, but they've really grown on me over the course of the 1200 GS and the 1250 GS. But there's something about that 1300 GS Adventure that is just pig ugly, and whilst I'm not going to win a beauty contest anytime soon, I've kind of got to want to get on the bike. So looks do become a little bit important when all's said and done, particularly when you're shelling out that kind of money. So that was the BMW, off my radar. Next one, well, I could just upgrade the KTM 1190 Adventure and go for the 1290 Adventure, but two things. One, not quite struck on the looks. It took me 8 years to love the 1190 Adventure and the colour of it. The 1290 Adventure, it's no better looking. It's heavier than the 1190 Adventure. It has a little bit more power and torque than the 1190 Adventure. So what am I really gaining there besides cruise control and the radar system? In my mind, probably not an awful lot. And I've also done the V-twin thing now for 10 years. I've really enjoyed it, but what's my motivation for getting the KTM 1290 Adventure, no, Super Adventure? Well, I didn't really have one. Coupled with the fact that KTM obviously going through its financial difficulties and its struggles, and knowing full well that there is a 1390 Adventure sitting somewhere on the radar, and you think, well, would have been better off just buying the next generation of the model. So that was me crushed on the 1290 Adventure. And then I had a look at the Multistrada. I took out a V4S at Preston, really quite liked it, but I have fuel range anxiety after a little bit of an incident in Spain last year where I miscalculated the fuel. Well, I was a bit cocky. I figured I didn't need to fill up, and then I got caught in the middle of nowhere riding 50 miles or 30 miles an hour just to conserve fuel. So I decided that if I was going to get a Multistrada, because I really liked the way it rode, then I needed one with a bigger fuel tank, and that was the Rally. And the Rally has a 30 litre tank, range somewhere around the 280 to 300 mark, and I thought, yeah, okay. It also comes with the spoke wheels, which I actually really like anyway. It's a little bit higher off the road, which doesn't bother me at all. I'm used to an adventure bike. So it seemed that I was fairly struck on the Rally, and the radar base model. I didn't really need any of the touring equipment. I've got a Shad top box, which I already had, and only needed a mounting plate. So that was me, pretty much sorted on the Ducati. So I had a couple of dealer issues, in as much as I couldn't get any response from the Preston dealers, despite 3 or 4 emails on the bounce and me having money in my pocket to burn. So I ended up at Leeds. Nice guys, sold me the bike, gave me the right advice really for which model and which additional extras I should get, and that was me sorted. Now, upgrades are quite personal, particularly when it comes to customization, so bear with me. These are the ones that I've done on my bike, not necessarily the ones that you might want to do on yours, but for the type of things that I do and the use case I have, this is what I have done to my Ducati, and I'm going to cut in with a few little snippets alongside the waffle, just so that you can see. So number one, I had a Carplay ride, which is an Android Auto Apple CarPlay screen, which I had on the KTM. It's had one or two little software issues, but other than that, it's a really useful way of mirroring what's on my phone onto a screen that's permanently in front of me. It's a bigger screen than the phone, and it means that my phone's not at any risk when I'm travelling in cities of being pinched. So I can leave the phone in a pocket and have the maps and so on the screen. Really love it. I would recommend it, or something similar. Really handy piece of kit. I do have a quad lock phone case and a quad lock mount with the vibration mount and the wireless charging on the handlebars, which is very useful for the most part when I'm riding. I don't really need to be putting the phone in my pocket, but I am mindful that sometimes you get in situations where you don't necessarily want your phone on display. Number two, a couple of Evotech products which are absolutely tremendous. Firstly, I've put the X mount on just underneath the front screen, and that allows me to mount the Carplay ride. Lovely piece of kit, only 70 odd quid. Really well made. In fact, everything from Evotech Performance is really well made. The next thing that I added was the Evotech Performance exhaust hanger bracket, which allows me to delete the pillion foot pegs. Now, I don't take my wife and daughter out very often on the back of the bike, and it's only a 20-minute job to go and reinstate them, so I just prefer the cleaner look of having no pillion pegs. So I have the Evotech exhaust mount, which about a 20-minute fit, absolutely tremendous quality, as is everything else Evotech. The next item is another Evotech item. I put the Evotech tail tidy on. It is much shorter. It is much less ugly than the standard tail tidy with the elongated mudguard, and for me it just tidies up the back end beautifully. No regrets. It's quite an expensive thing, took about an hour and 20 minutes to fit, but really happy with that overall. Next item, I have a WRS smoked touring screen. Now, touring screens are, I guess, quite personal. I bought a Puig screen which was really dark. Too dark for me. It just took too much light away from the road, and I like to see a little bit of the road through the screen, but I want to dampen some of the reflection, particularly when I'm out touring and you get a lot of sun reflections. So I ended up getting rid of the Puig one, and I bought the WRS smoked touring screen with the smoked winglets, and I just think it gives the bike a better look at the front. The touring screen in its own right, though, in terms of its wind protection, absolutely brilliant. Would recommend it to anybody. So that's WRS. I'll put a link in the description for all these parts a little bit later. The next item. So the next item that I put on there was, I've already mentioned it, the Shad top box. I've just bought the mounting plate and pretty much a few nuts and bolts, and that's the Shad top box mounted to the back. Absolutely brilliant piece of kit, better than any of the other top boxes that I've used, and I've had a few now. Particularly like the way the handle pops out and enables you to carry it quite easily. Not that I carry a 42 litre top box around that frequently, but it's a nicely designed piece of kit. So the next item that I added was some extended mirror bolts. That's because I mount a camera on the bike on both sides, depending on which country I'm in, and I don't like having clamps on the bike. The clamps usually have a little insulating piece of rubber, and ultimately it just allows the whole arm to vibrate a bit more. I'll do a little video of the actual mounts themselves and maybe do a video separately of that. But having a hard mount just means that the camera doesn't vibrate anywhere near as much, and it makes the handlebars a lot cleaner, because that brings me to the next item that I upgraded, and that was I put the LSL sports bike handlebars on, because I just got fed up of the incredibly wide handlebars on the Multistrada. They are absolutely ridiculous. I understand why they're wide. They're wide there purely because these are supposed to be off-road bikes, but nobody in their right mind takes a 25 grand bike off-road. So anyway, handlebars that wide, they actually hurt my back. And they also impede filtering. So I put the LSL handlebars on. Interesting fact about those is it's the only item in terms of customization that I've added to the bike that has actually resulted in my insurance premium going up by £50. And I'll talk a little bit more about the insurance premiums shortly. So yeah, weird one, that one. But LSL handlebars, absolutely tremendous. Obviously a little bit of drilling to get all the switchgear mounted, but I can't recommend those highly enough. So, those are the modifications that I have done to this bike so far, or the additions, customisations that I've made so far. So, let's get on to the good. What is good about this bike? The engine, absolutely stellar. It's super smooth compared to the KTM, but then you might expect that with it being a V4 and not a V-twin. It's very, very smooth. It pulls very, very well, but it does pull much higher up the rev range than the KTM. I'll say that the KTM doesn't really matter as long as you're over 3,000 revs. Doesn't matter where you are in the rev range, you just pull it and it goes. It's an absolute rocket. Proper thumps, very agricultural, thumps you in the backside. It's a very, very interesting experience, the KTM, and if you like something that's really visceral, then it's a great machine and a great experience. The rear cylinder deactivation on the Ducati, well, it's supposed to help emissions, it's supposed to keep the heat away from your legs, but in all honesty, it's bloody hot when you're sitting in traffic. Rear cylinder deactivation, does it really work? Do you know what, I have absolutely no idea. All I can say is it's still really hot either way. It's got a lovely engine tone. I don't think you really do it justice when listening to it as a background note, but all of my friends say it's a bit noisy when you're sitting there at the back, but not too noisy. It's just about the right amount of noise. It's got a beautiful induction tone, and it also turns in somewhere between 46 to 54 miles to the gallon, depending on how you're riding, which is an awful lot better than I thought it would do. That is, if you're American, that's a UK gallon, which is 8 pints, not an American gallon, which is 7 pints. Secondly, what I really like about the bike, brakes. They are very, very good indeed. Probably better than the KTM, although it's a 10-year-old KTM. There's a lovely rotor buzz when you really hit the anchors hard, which I do like. Maintenance. The chain adjustment is actually very simple, but in the manual you get told how to measure the chain adjustment, and you've got the little tool that comes under the seat, but it tells you to take it to a dealer. I mean, for heaven's sake, the prices the dealers charge, which I will come to shortly, is astronomical for a Ducati, and it really pisses me off. So the fact that you can actually check your chain, but you're not supposed to be touching it, is, for me, I think it's a little bit disgraceful of Ducati, particularly since it is only a socket set and some spanners, and actually your average Joe could probably do it with a very little bit of tuition. One thing I'll say about doing the adjustments is that the swinging arm is very well machined and really accurate, so rather than having to particularly measure the tracking of the wheel, you can just measure the gap between the machined faces with the vernier caliper, and it's very accurate. So next thing that I really like about the bike, the ride and the suspension, absolutely tremendous. Now there are 4 modes. There is rider with luggage, 2 up with luggage, and there are also the riding modes themselves. There's I can't remember which one, I only ever ride it in touring nowadays, but there's like a rain mode, an off-road mode, a touring mode, and a sports mode. So when you consider that you've got the 4 modes and you've got the 4 riding setups, and then within each one of those you've got traction control, you've got engine braking, you've got wheelie control, you've got ABS control, and all that kind of stuff. You've got preload setup. Honestly, you're talking maybe 160 or more different variables, and it's too much. It's far too much, considering you pretty much set it up once and then leave it. For me, is it really necessary, is the question I ask. It is nice to be able to have all these adjustments, and I have played with most of them now, but pretty much I've just set it up and left it, and that's been fine. The exhaust. Now, I've mentioned the tone is tremendous. That is because when I bought the bike, I bought the full Akropovich race exhaust with the remapped engine, and honestly, it sounds awesome, absolutely awesome. Very, very expensive as a piece of kit, but I'm really, really glad I bought it. It's absolutely tremendous. Quick shifter, really, really good. Word of warning, when you let the oil level drop towards the minimum level in the sight glass, the gearbox shift becomes a lot more clunky, so make sure your oil's always topped up. But other than that, the quick shifter, really, really good. A little bit clunky maybe between first and second gear, but other than that, tremendous. The radar and cruise control I love, absolutely love it, particularly since I have been known to be prone to picking up the odd notice of intended prosecution and then having to do speed awareness courses. But it allows you just to set the cruise control speed, and then the radar adjusts the speed of the bike according to the traffic in front of you, which I think is really, really good. The hill holder brake, number 9 of my of the items that I've listed here as the good bits. The hill holder clutch. Now, I didn't even know it had a hill holder clutch until Royd kindly pointed it out to me on one of our rides. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. When you're sitting on a hill, absolutely terrific. You can just pull the brake in really tight, and the hill holder brake just sits on there. And then when you want to go again, just pull forward, let the clutch out quickly, and it lets the brake off. Absolutely brilliant. And number 10, the blind spot mirrors. They've got little indicators in the top of the mirrors that tell you when somebody's sitting in the blind spot. Now, I'm kind of in two minds about this. Do you want them there to stop you looking, or should you always do the shoulder check and just turn them off? Well, I have them on, and I try and maintain discipline with doing the shoulder check. Right then, where are we now? Let's move on to the not so good things about this bike. Well, I seem to experience some handlebar wobble at higher speeds. Now, it didn't happen when I first got the bike, and it doesn't happen when my hands are on the bars. But when I have luggage on the back of the bike, which could mean that I'm now indicating that there's a weight distribution issue and possibly a preload issue, when I put weight on the back of the bike when I'm touring, at about 40 to 50 miles an hour, I get a little bit of handlebar wobble, which is a little disconcerting. Now, it didn't seem to happen when the bike was new, and it only happened when I had about 3,000 miles on it. Now, I'm wondering whether it's something to do with the Scorpion tyres, because of the way I'm looking at the wear on the tread pattern. I then Googled it, and I'm not the only person to have said that, and not the only person to have pointed out that it might be Scorpion tyres. So I'm due a new set, and I shan't be replacing it with the Scorpions. I think probably I'm going to replace them with either Metzler Torrance Next 2 or Road Teco 2. Possibly I'll look at the Pirelli Road 6s, which pretty much everybody adores for the road, but I'm just not keen on the tread pattern. I think it's a bit much on the back of this bike. Secondly, it pulls left a little bit. Now, that could well be down to camber on the UK roads. You put a little bit of weight on the right peg and it stays straight, but for me, I'm probably just going to adjust the back wheel ever so slightly, just so that it stays true on most UK roads for the most part. Possibly something to do with gyroscopic effects, I don't know, maybe not. There has been an erratic fuel gauge fault on it. Now, the weird little fuel gauge fault really is a really weird fuel gauge fault. Sometimes it can be completely full, and then when I go back to it, having turned it off overnight, it'll say 6 miles left, and then for the next 100 miles it will slowly creep back up to 250 miles to go, which is crackers. It may well be software, it might be something to do with the actual fuel sender, but either way, I ignore it now and I just go off ridden miles, and I can get about 280 to a tank before I need to fill up. 4, servicing. So I've only had one service, and it's due another service next week, and I'm not going back to Leeds because it's a bit far to travel. I'm going to go to Manchester, so I'll probably do an update on that one. But servicing, incredibly expensive, £320 for a service. A service is plug it onto the computer, do an oil change, and then the regular checks. Now, I do the regular checks every single week anyway, as you should do, but honestly, I kind of think that that's a bit of a con. They must be charging you for about 2 hours work at 150 odd quid an hour, and for me it's daylight robbery. I don't think it's good value whatsoever, and once my 4-year warranty is up, I should be servicing it myself. I shan't be giving Ducati a penny, because they're not doing anything that I can't do. So, I've already had a bit of a moan about the Leeds dealer, but they did reconcile that, so unfair to bash them twice. 5. Insurance is really expensive, partly because the bike's an expensive bike. I have to shop around and not all dealers will quote for it, which I think is a bit frustrating. But I guess buy a bike with 180 odd horsepower, what do you expect? I guess that'll be the comment on that one. Lots of nooks and crannies on the engine casting, and that does mean that it seems to gather water, gather crap on it if you ride it in the wet. Why they can't just make some of these castings a little bit cleaner looking, I don't know. Certainly it'll make cleaning the bike a lot easier when you come to washing and scrubbing. But honestly, I've got 1,000,001 different little brushes, scrubbers, bog brushes, twisty brushes, toothbrushes, just so I could get to everything and clean it properly. And maybe I'm a bit OCD with it, but I always cover it, once it's dried, I always cover it with ACF 50 after every wash, and to be honest, it keeps all the corrosion down to a bare minimum, if there's any at all. And hey, it kept the KTM in great nick for 10 years as well, and that still looks like it's a showroom model with the exception of the wear and tear bits and pieces, so can't complain. So that's still all the bad items so far on it. In conclusion, it's basically a great bike, and I really can't complain. It really is a tremendous machine. It's got a super comfortable riding position now that I've installed narrower handlebars, which is a big thing for me. Wind deflection, now I've got that WRS screen on it, absolutely tremendous, and it really cuts the wind noise down as well, which I do struggle with wind noise. I've got tinnitus and I have to wear earplugs, but even the screen takes the wind noise down really well. The electronic adjustments for absolutely everything, it's too much really. It takes some time to set up, and you can get a really, really good balance of absolutely everything. Fuel economy is better than I thought it would be, so I really can't complain about that. Particularly when you consider that it's pretty much on par with my friends with their GSs, so yeah, that was an absolute pleasant surprise. Handlebar shake, not good, might be solved with a pair of tyres. So if anybody has any recommendations for tyres or comments about the Pirelli Scorpion tyre, I'd be really interested to hear. Stick a comment in the bottom and I'll have a conversation with you about that. But yeah, for me, I think probably Taurus Next 2 or Road Tech 2 from Metzler for me on the next pair. The weird fuel gauge issue, it is what it is. I just ride it to 280 miles and then fill it up now. Dealer experience has been a little bit funny, particularly Preston and Manchester didn't want to sell me a bike and wouldn't return emails. That hacked me off. My issue with Leeds, not fixing something in the service that they should have done, but at least they had the decency to apologise and refund me. Really, that's the kind of service you should expect, I think. So, coming to my conclusive questions then, has it been a good purchase? Overall, I think so, but, and it is a big but, if it got stolen or if it got written off, I don't think I'd get another one. Now that I know that the fuel economy is a lot better than I would have thought it would have been, I don't think I'd have gone for the Rally. I think I would have gone for a Pikes Peak. I've got a friend who has one. It fits me better. I'm only 5'10". It fits me better. The Pikes Peak, it's a little bit lower. And let's face it, who doesn't love a single-sided swing arm? It just looks absolutely tremendous, that bike. So yeah, maybe I would get another Ducati Multistrada, but probably a Pikes Peak. But in all seriousness, I genuinely would consider just getting back on the KTM 1190 Adventure, which I haven't sold. It's still sitting in the garage. I believe it's worth more money than other people think it's worth, so I haven't sold it yet, despite trying. I absolutely love the bike, and yeah, if I didn't have the Ducati, I'd just go back on the KTM and I wouldn't look back. I think I would keep it. It's been a great bike. It's only done 22,000 miles. I did the last service myself on it. Cost me £600 just in parts alone, and took the heads off and stuff like that, check the valve clearances. So yeah, that's a bit of an indictment really. So do I have any regrets in buying the bike? No, I don't think so. But after the honeymoon period, I do recognise that I have to question value for money. And does the Ducati offer it? The ultimate question, was it worth it? So Was it worth the upgrade? And in all honesty, I've got a single word, and I'm sad to say it's a no. Was it worth it? I don't think it is. So sure, it's a more accomplished bike in every single department than the KTM 1190 Adventure. Absolutely it is, but then it's 10 years newer and it bloody well should be. It also cost £10,000 more than when I bought the KTM. Admittedly, there was 10 years in between, but inflation wasn't that high, running well under 2%. So it was a £10,000 more expensive bike. It is more accomplished, but is it £20,000 better than the bike that I was getting off? That is the question that I asked myself. Is it £20,000 better? And that's a lot of money when you consider the 1190 Adventure is only a 212 kilogram bike. It has the same amount of torque as a Ducati. It's a little bit less power, but when you consider it as less weight, you know, you can argue the toss really is, does it have a better power to weight ratio maybe? So yeah, certainly with a 40 kilogram weight difference in the bikes on the outset, I think it's much of a muchness. So you notice the 40 kilograms when you're pushing the bike around the driver and around the garage. It's really, really noticeable that the Ducati is so heavy. And at best, I would say, is a Ducati worth more than the KTM? Yeah, it is, but maybe only £5,000 to £10,000 worth. Certainly not £20,000 worth. So herein lies the conclusions of my 12 or 13 months with the Ducati Multistrada V4 Rally Radar. I'm enjoying it. Would I necessarily recommend it? Yes, I would. Very much depends on what you're upgrading from though. So that's me done for another video. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful. Any comments, any feedback, anything else you'd like to know about my experiences with it, and I will be glad to respond to you in the comments. So that's me done, over and out. Boom.